Hello, artists. It's me again, Alicia Dianne. And have you ever felt like you hated competition? You just don't like it. It's not fun. It feels a little bit icky sometimes, but I want to tell you why a little bit of healthy competition can be a good thing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Some healthy competition. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so I'm gonna pull up Procreate and I'm gonna keep on working on what I've been working on for the last, I don't know how long. This little illustration of my character Bandelli. He's running away from this baboon. You see, I made some progress since the last time I was recording. I did some cleanup with some of the background objects, added more color in here. I'm really kind of working on the line, getting some of the line work out right now. So let's see how much of that we can actually do. Hopefully, a lot. But yeah, I want to talk to you about competition today because I think sometimes we can view competition as a bad thing, or maybe it's like an icky thing, or it's something that we don't want to do. But I think it can actually be really healthy. And I'm going to talk about why. Well, first of all, competition gets you out of your comfort zone, right? Or we would normally be, we do our own thing and we kind of get comfortable doing our own thing. But competition kind of makes us wake up a little bit. I'm going to use the analogy of like maybe if you were applying to art school and you were probably the best artist at your high school. You didn't have a whole lot of competition. Everybody just thought that you were amazing and that you were really good, but then all of a sudden you're getting into this art school and like, oh, it has to be my work has to look pretty good now. I need to like show them only my best stuff, and I need to show them like I need to like work on my portfolio to get it to where I want it to be. And then if you're lucky enough to get in, you get in there and you're like, "Oh, I am not the best person in the room anymore." And then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, well, maybe I need to step my game up. Maybe I need to practice more. Maybe I just need a little bit more tools in my toolbox." That's one of the things I like to kind of refer to. It's just like, the skills that you're learning is kind of like tools in your toolbox, and you're maybe like, oh, I need to get some more. I don't have enough. And before you panic or like start to doubt yourself, I want you to like remember that this is a good thing because before you might have felt like kind of comfortable where you were, kind of like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this. But when you get that competition, it's like, oh, well, maybe I still have a long way to go. And that's a good thing because it makes you get stronger. It makes you start to think about the ways that you can grow. It makes you start to think about, how can I get better at this thing? And it makes you notice those weaknesses that you might not have noticed before, like, oh, they are a lot better perspective than me. They're a lot better at this other thing than I am and that I want to get good at. And it kind of will help you to see, first of all, okay, I am not the greatest in the world and I can be better and I want to be better. And so let me go ahead and take the action steps that I need in order to get better. Next, it makes you try harder. So just like I was saying before, you might have felt kind of comfortable, kind of like, I'm doing all right. But now you realize, hey, I need to put in these extra hours. Maybe I need to focus on one specific thing, or, I wasn't really cleaning. That's one thing that I noticed with myself at times. Like I wasn't always cleaning up my work, or just thought, like certain drawings were like, they're okay, they're good enough, but it's not about being good enough. It's about putting your best foot forward. So I do think there's a distinguishment between like, saying, okay, yeah, I'm happy with the way that I draw. I'm happy with the way that I make art. And then being like, okay, well, let me really put my very best foot forward because even though I like what I'm doing now, I know that I can be better. I know that I can be stronger. I know that I didn't really try 100%. And that's where we can get lost when we don't put 100% in. We do kind of give it like a little bit of 50-50. I really, I did all right, but you know that you can do more. So taking that time and that effort to really give it give it your best shot. Another thing that competition does, which is actually good for you, because when you're on that path and you see like you're starting to see like, oh, I do need to try harder, maybe I need to give it a little bit more of my all, then you'll start to say, okay, well, you get on that path, you're starting to learn, and you start to see, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this. You might be trying things that you might not have tried before when you were more comfortable, and you might realize, hey, I'm actually pretty good at these other things that I really haven't tried before. You'll maybe start to notice, hey, this wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. I think that happens a lot for us when we are kind of stagnant and we don't try things because we're afraid of how it might come out in the end. But having that competition forces us into a position to try things that we might not have tried before. And then we realize, oh, hey, I'm not as bad as this as I thought I might be. I'm actually not bad at doing like traditional painting or like digital painting or like animal drawing or whatever it is that thing is that you were afraid to try before that you are willing to now try. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think I can do this. And it does make a difference because that will build your confidence up because you might not have like wanted to try before, but then you're like, oh, hey, now that I'm trying it, I'm pretty good. And so I'm going to keep going and I'm going to get better at it. And I'm going to get better at it. And you might need to ask somebody one on one. You might need some one on one support. That happens sometimes where we need like someone to really like take our hand with things that we feel really intimidated by and just say, okay, I need help with this area. And then you might find, oh, hey, I'm grabbing this a lot. I'm getting this concept faster than I thought I would. So it will reveal your hidden talents and abilities and things that you might not have thought you could do, but you're actually pretty good at. So that's another thing. Another thing that it can do is it can really, it's funny enough. I was watching this series over the weekend, and you know, I don't really watch a whole lot of regular TV during the week. I like to listen to like the motivational stuff and like, I listen to like, I don't know, podcast or like s- self-development type of talks or books or audiobooks, things like that. But on a weekend, I just kind of like to chill. It's more time that I spend with my family and you know, I'm not on the grind mode as it speaks. And so I was watching this series. I don't really like competition series. Really, I don't. There's not many I like unless it's very specific to something that I'm interested in. Like back in the day, I did like that Top Model, and I think that was probably one of the first competition shows, but I don't know, there was just something about like how women related to each other and just like being in these different something about it just interested me. And recently, over the weekend, I started watching Kevin Hart's show. It's called Funny AF, and it's like a comedy competition. And I like it because I've always loved stand-up comedy. I think I got hooked on it from when I was a kid. And I think I started with sketch comedy was like my introduction. That was my gateway into like stand-up comedy because we had this video of like all of what was it? What Eddie Murphy's Saturday Night Live, like all of his little like skits and what are they called them? They're called like there's a name for it. why it's slipping my head right now. I don't know, but there's a name for it. But it was like all of his performances on SNL. And I don't know why I can't remember the name. That's really annoying. But anyway, I used to watch that video over and over again. I mean, there were certain things I was just really into when I was a kid, and they just kind of stuck with me. And that was one of them. And I think it's just called sketch comedy, but I feel like there's another word for it. Anyway, I'm going to keep like picking my brain about it. But anyway, um, yeah, I just loved it from then, from when I was a kid, and I would just watch. Even he had these jokes that I didn't even get at the time. Like there was this one, like prophylactic skit that he did, and and maybe that's the word I'm looking for. It's like skit. I think it's just sketch comedy. Yeah, but anyway, I was watching it, and I didn't realize he was talking about like uh preventative preventative things. But anyway, it was from there that I loved it. But anyway, I watched this show over the weekend, and it's a competition, and one of the things that stood out to me was like the people that were in it, that maybe they weren't really ready, or maybe they just were they thought they wanted to do it, but then when it got deeper in the mud, I noticed some people had like dropped out. And I'm wondering if competition just kind of does that. It kind of removes the the people who aren't sure, or the people, like, you can tell there's people who didn't make it and they were really upset about it, and they wanted to keep going. But then you can also see the people who were about to make it, but they're like, oh well, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if this type of thing is me, because I think especially during they had an episode that was just roasts, and I think that really like tested people to be like, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't feel like that's the same thing or whatever, which I don't know. I mean, I'm not a stand-up comic, but I feel like as cartoonists and people who make, like, if you've done like any sort of comedy in your animation and your storytelling, then I feel like there's a similar part of our brain that we use usually as I don't know, I think that stand-up comedians are pretty introverted too, but I think that maybe, sorry for my hand blocking the screen right now, but I think that people that do, those of us who do caricature and do comedy through drawing, or even more even more introverted than the stand-up comics are. But or less, like someone who is your class clown is like not the same as the person who was the class artist. They might both make you laugh, but in very different ways. You know what I mean? But let's see. What was I getting to? I think I was getting to like, yeah, the removal of people who were never really that serious to begin with. People who maybe were on the fence about, yeah, I like the idea of doing this, but me not necessarily want to do the work. I think that happens in every field. I think in every field there are people who like the idea of something, but are not really ready for the real thing. And you see that in art too. I think there's a lot of people who might think that art is cool, art is a fun thing that they like to do, but when they realize how many hours are involved, and it's like, ooh, I don't know if I want to do that type of thing, or I don't know if I have the capacity to do that. I don't know if I have if my attention span is made for that sort of thing. Because sometimes it's like, you might have, I think what we're blessed with when we do receive like gifts, which I think everyone has a gift. And a couple of people pointed this out to me, and one of the people pointed this out to me was a girl that I was mentoring, and she said, and I heard someone else say it like in the same week. It's like being gifted with something is having the patience to 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 do it over and over again and to do it and to not lose interest after doing it over and over again, to having that desire to want to keep doing it. And I think that's so smart because I think it's true. I think that is the way that we kind of receive blessings, is like it's not just like we get good at it. It's like people think, "Oh, you're just blessed." It's like you don't know how many hours I've put behind this thing. But the blessing is having the attention span to keep doing it over and over and over again for many, many hours, because not everyone has that. Not everyone has the attention span or the desire to do the same thing, like a repetitive thing over and over again for many, many like unpredictable amount of hours. So that is a blessing. Um, what else did I want to talk about? Also wanted to kind of talk about when you know or how to know when competition is not healthy, because there is absolutely unhealthy competition. And I think unhealthy competition is what turned me off from competition in the first place. I think a lot of the competition that I was exposed to early, and I think that's not maybe just my story. I think a lot of us are exposed to unhealthy competition, whether someone in your family is putting you up to compete with them or someone else in a way that feels just like, more like egotistical driven, or like you can tell when it just feels like, oh, this is not right. But we can engage in that if we're not careful. We can engage in unhealthy competition or engage in competition in an unhealthy way if we're not careful. And I think one of the ways to notice that right off the bat is if you're feeling like it's hitting your self-esteem, if you feel like it's hitting your value as a person or your value like in your social group, I think that's a big one, because I think there's situations and times where your social group will try and act like whether you win or not is going to determine your rank in that group, or just like how you're looked at, or maybe they might make fun of you or belittle you if you lose. And I think that's incredibly unhealthy. I mean, unfortunately, I think I've seen that a lot, like in the community that I grew up in. And I think we have to be careful when with those types of things, especially when it's like some communities make that feel like that's socially acceptable to like belittle people if they're not up to par. I think that's not just one. I think several communities do that, and I don't think that that's healthy in any way. I think that just kind of pulls people more, makes people more isolated, makes people feel more like I have to go on my own or I have to find my own way because I don't have the support of community. And you might think, oh, some people might think, oh, well, that person is just being too sensitive. But no, I think there's ways where it's really just not healthy competition. And, or like it's become like toxic in some ways. And that's not good for anybody. I don't think that's good for anybody, honestly. And let's see. Other ways that you can notice when it feels like it's unhealthy composition is when you feel like resentment, any sort of resentment against your competitors. That's not a good sign. If you start to feel like angry, or you start to feel like you're building up some sort of like overly frustration, like you're putting too much importance on it, and you feel like their win is your loss, that's a sign that it's not healthy. I think that that could come from you or it can come from the outside. Like sometimes people just like talk a lot of crap, and I don't know if that's why I don't like sports, but I think when people like talk trash and, put people down. I just don't think that's healthy for anybody. Yeah, compete healthy, but don't compete like toxic. I don't know. That just feels really, I don't know, maybe that's just me. But I think that that's kind of toxic. And I don't think that that's healthy. like all the trash talking kind of stuff. I don't think that that's good for anybody in the long run. I think that creates resentment, people that can't be friends in real life. And I think ultimately, like, I think, yeah, you can joke on each other, like, joke. But when you start to get personal, it's like, I don't know. I think that's too far for me personally. Um, I also think that, like, if you like really like starting to if you can feel like you don't like this person because you have to compete with them, like that's not. And I think that can happen too, like if you're competing for the wrong things. I think we said that maybe you're competing for the wrong things. Maybe you either place too much importance on what you're competing for, which, or like, I don't know, how do you put that? Because I think you should compete for things that are important to you, that are incredibly important for you. But I think you should have a certain amount of confidence that you're going to be okay. And you should have enough confidence in how much you've practiced and how much work you put in, because it doesn't really matter what the other person is doing. If you know that you've tried your very best, then you shouldn't feel angry about the other person. Even if you do lose, you'd be like, well, that sucks, but I know that I did my very best. And so there shouldn't be resentment there. There shouldn't be like, oh, man, this person is such a, such and such because they won. It should be more like, yeah, that really sucks, but I know that I did the very best that I could do. Or if you didn't, then man, I really need to step my game up and do better next time because I didn't do my best. Like, if anything, it should be like, if you know that you didn't try your best, then like, all right, I'm definitely gonna try harder because I know that I can do better than that. I think that's a big part of it, just knowing like and recognizing too, not blaming other people for when you didn't try. That you can't blame someone else if you didn't give it your all. Like that's lame. I can say, oh, that person just sucks, but in all, you didn't practice, you didn't try your best. Like you can't blame other people when you don't try your best. That's not gonna work. And it doesn't work in the real world, whatever the real world is. It just doesn't work. So try your best from the beginning. That way you won't have anybody to blame but yourself. But, if you try your best and you still lose, then don't take it out on, don't like let that affect your self-esteem. Don't let that deter you from trying again or from trying harder or forgetting the tools that you need. Sometimes you just need more tools. Sometimes we just need a coach. So many people fail because they don't have the right leadership or the right, team. And sometimes you need to like maybe build your team. And I don't know how you do that. Maybe by helping someone else can help you to build a team who will help you. I've noticed that in my career, um, it doesn't always happen that way. But there's times where, like, okay, well, I have an opportunity and ability to help someone else on this project. I could recently just kind of volunteered to do some work like a couple months ago for some other people without charging because there were other artists and I wanted to like help, but there's a limit. Just for definitely a limit to how much I'll do for free. But if I can do something, maybe you want to build a relationship or you know just find ways to be a part of something that's not just me, then I think you can maybe build bridges and build friendships that way. And then once that's over, keep those relationships going as long as you can so that you'll have a support team when you need it, because you will need it. We all will need it. Especially if you're in art school right now, like you're gonna need support after you leave. That little like I love being in art school. I really loved it. The whole situation, the whole feeling. So if you're graduating from art school now, just remember that like to keep those relationships and nurture them, because it's not gonna be the same when you graduate. It's just not. People give you a certain amount of like grace, especially like people who are not in the field. They give you like, oh yeah, you're in school, whatever. They might support you while you're in school, but like all of a sudden when you graduate, they might have different expectations. The expectation might just be like, you putting your part of the rent or whatever it is, or there's no more grace. Like I feel like in many ways, being in school is your grace period. So if you can extend that grace period, go back to school. But seriously, no, you can have like keep that community so that you have people who understand you. And that was my other point, is that being in having competition, having healthy competition, um, it kind of accidentally creates community, like even without trying. Like you all compete to be in a certain school, right? You compete to get into art school, right? That's through the application process. That is essentially competition. Like only so many people can win, not can get in. Not everybody's going to get in, but through that process, those of you who are selected, and go on your journey from there, you guys have something, a bond. You guys are on like of the same level of competency or of so similar level of competency that you can help each other, that you kind of create this unique community where you each understand each other in a way that probably the outside world will not understand you because they are not obsessed with this thing that you're obsessed with, this art form that you're obsessed with, that you've committed your life to. So finding other people who have also devoted their life to the same thing that you have devoted your life to can be very powerful because all of a sudden you have people who understand the passion, people who understand that love and the dedication and the effort that it takes and all of the long nights or long days that it takes. One thing that was really, really helpful to me was um, that I learned during my thesis is like you don't have to have long nights if you have long days. Like you have to put in the hours somewhere, but you can choose, try to choose well which hours you commit to. I know it doesn't always go smoothly, especially if you have other obligations, but if you can choose, then choose your hours that allow you because you can't work without sleeping. You have to sleep at some time. If you work all night, then you're gonna be sleeping at some point during the day. So you really not necessarily getting more. Make sure you get enough sleep, you know, even during competition, like make sure you sleep when you need to. Your brain, your relationships will suffer if you don't get enough sleep. Get enough sleep, but be committed to the time that you commit to, right? Take the time out that you actually committed to. So that would be my advice. What else? What else would I say? Other things that I think that um, I did start on don't resent your competitors, and the reason why you don't want to resent them because they are you. Your competitors are you, and you have the same interests. You might have a similar worth ethic, and if they have a bigger worth ethic than you, then you can learn from them, and vice versa. They can learn from you, just depending on what your work ethic is. You can learn from them. They can learn from you. You guys can really realize that you have a lot more in common. Realize, and this is like part of it, realize that you have more in common than you don't have in common. Because at the end of the day, you guys are basically in the same pool. You're in the same pond. You're the same type of people. So I think, one of the things that I noticed when I was watching that show, there's another show that Kevin Hart was doing too, talking to other comedians, and it was like they were like the Avengers or like the X-Men, they describe themselves as, because they're all good at the craft. And rather than hating on each other, which would have just, driven them apart, it would have driven the art apart. Like, it's a thing. If you're just competing and you're aggressive and you just like, screw everybody but me, then it's like, like those people who go on those shows and like, I'm not here to make friends. Well, then you're probably just gonna leave. Like you're gonna leave empty. You're not gonna leave with anything if you're like what if you're there to not make friends, like you're missing a big part of it. I think making the friendships with people who have the same interests and a similar skill set as you do makes you stronger. It doesn't make you weaker. And it's like that verse is like a braided cord, like two will be stronger than one, one can go on its own. And it's that same thing as the African proverb. It's like, if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go, no, is that if I can remember what it said. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And I think that's like makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense, I think, because it's very true. It's very true. I don't like the way this one looks. I think I'm gonna use the darker green to keep the leaves, because I like the way the leaves look. All right. Sometimes it's just like a little bit of trial and error. I was trying some different techniques with a specific one. That's why it takes longer too, because I try different techniques. I still like to learn as much as I can, so I still take online classes and I'll try things out and see if I like it and whatnot. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. So I don't know if I want to make these hills. I think I don't really like them being this color. I think I want to make them more this blue, but a little bit maybe darker. Let's see. Let's see if it works. And I try it out. And more of like a little more grayish. See how that works. I don't know if I'll like it yet, but we'll see. This is something about the pink mounds that I'm not sure if I like. These are essentially piles of trash back here, so these ones are more like, and I might just add like maybe I'll add some other things to this to make it go. All right. The next thing I wanted to say about not letting competition be unhealthy is don't let it affect your integrity. Like, don't, like, if you feel the need to cheat or like you need to throw things off or you need to like get upper hand some way that is going to make you feel like less than good about yourself, then that's probably a sign that the competition is getting unhealthy. I don't think that it's ever a good idea to kind of sacrifice yourself on the stake of trying to win a thing. Like it always like look turns out bad and it always like I don't know, it always feels a little bit like you know, icky like when you find out a sports person that you really liked, even though they're one of the best athletes in the world and you still decide to cheat somehow. It's just like, it kind of ruins it for everybody. I think in a way. I think in a way it just kind of makes everything feel like, oh, that's just freaking weird. That sucks. Like, it doesn't feel good. And I don't think it makes, I think especially it must make the person feel like crap about themselves because they've devoted their whole life to get to the place where they are. And then they just like, they still feel like I'm not good enough, so I need to get upper hand somehow. I need to go the edge somehow. I don't know. I think that's kind of sucks. Don't know how I want to do this. If I want to make it more greenish or I'm not really sure what I want to do with these. Let's see. Maybe I can, I don't know. My next point will be, ah, this one is also really important. I think if you're going to compete, if you're going to enter into a state of, taking yourself on as a professional, then step up to the plate. At the same time, as like the opposite is like, at the same time that I say, like, let it affect you overly much and, don't let it ruin your integrity and don't take it so personally. At the same time, I think it's just really sucky when you see someone that they get into art school and they're not doing the work. They get into the sports but they're not really practicing. It's like if you're gonna you're already good. You're proving yourself to get in and you're in the work. But then you just don't try. And I can't say that I'm like not guilty of ever doing this because I know that there's been times where like I'd entered into things and I thought, oh, the competition is not going to be that much. I'm just gonna submit what I have and just let it be. I've done that too. Like, and I've noticed and I've like kicked myself for it. Like that was stupid. I should have put my best foot forward every single time, no matter what. Even if you don't think the competition is going to be that big. Like, why do we still like be half asked about it. Like, put your best foot forward every time. Like, because it's like respecting yourself. It's not about what the other people are doing anymore. It's not about like how good or bad or steep you think the competition is. It's just like, like have pride in what you do. Have pride in yourself and have pride in your work. And if you don't respect the competition, then you shouldn't be in it. Like if you're gonna be half-assed, then don't be there. Um, and it's true. It's true. It's just like, you know, you can't just expect to just kind of do the minimum and still make it by. It just doesn't make sense. It's a waste of everyone's time to do that sort of thing. So I think it's really important to make sure if you're gonna be in some sort of competition or whatever, then do your best. That's all. Do your best. And don't let the doubts creep in because I think sometimes maybe we do that out of fear. It's like, oh, well, I'm just gonna do this, just this amount because deep down we're afraid. Or, oh, they're just gonna have to take me as I am. That's like the worst thing. Yes, be yourself, but be your best self. Don't be the lazy self. Be your best self. I think that's important. Don't shrink down either because like you feel like, oh, well, then I'll look arrogant if I, do this or that. No, just be yourself, and if you're good, be good, and then because then you won't have to like make excuses. I think that's probably why people make excuses and say, "Well, it's because I lost because I wasn't really trying that hard anyway." Well, why weren't you trying that hard? Maybe you should try that hard. You know, maybe you should try harder instead of making excuses after. And that's all I have to say about that. I'm gonna do some more. I think I'm mostly done fixing the lines in the background. I'm gonna fix the lines for my foreground soon, but I do want to share that I am actually competing in this moment. I am actually in a competition. I'm gonna share my screen for what it is, and hopefully it will show. It's called The People's Artist, thepeoplesartist.org. And this is my page. And it has a little bit about me, my contact. I answered some questions. And you notice there are donations for the votes. And that is because the voting is actually going towards a good cause. It's called The Art of Elysium, which is a nonprofit organization in Los Angeles. So this is the competition actually is presented by Johnny Depp. If you go to thepeoplesartist.org. They'll talk about it. And there's a message from Johnny Depp himself, my former crush when I was in college the first time. I think when I saw Pirates of the Caribbean, I had a big crush on him. But anyway, that's not why I entered the competition. I think it's a really good cause. Let's see, the Art of Elysium. This is about them. So it says the Art of Elysium was founded in 1997 to support artists working for the benefit of others. For 28 years, we've paired volunteer artists with communities in Los Angeles to support individuals in the midst of difficult emotional challenges like illness, hospitalization, displacement, confinement, and or crisis. We serve medically fragile children, teens, and adults, seniors, those dealing with social, emotional, and mental health issues, and the homeless. Our team members at the Art of Elysium work with volunteer artists to craft creative, tailor-made programs for the populations we serve. We currently offer 110 programs a month, serving over 30,000 individuals a year. Volunteer artists are then eligible for support services ranging from artist salons and networking events to showcase and distribution opportunities. We currently serve 2,510 artists a year in Los Angeles. And so artists volunteer with this program, which I'm just hearing about this program, but they're doing amazing work. I volunteered for different art organizations a lot over the years, and I definitely think it's a great thing when people take art and put it out for the benefit of the public. I think that is the purpose of art, is really to be a benefit to the public. And so I think it's a great purpose. And I'm going to share the link. And if you are able to, I would love you to cast your vote. Your first vote is free. And if you want to make a contribution to the charity, it also gives me more votes. So that would be great. So I'm going to share this. And this is exciting. This is really exciting. So I hope you guys got something from this. I think it was really cool for me to just kind of talk about how I feel about competitions. I know I didn't always like competitions until I really understood them and understood how healthy competition can be a benefit to everyone involved. And I hope that you have got some takeaways from this as well. So until I see you next time, be grateful, live balanced, be yourself, and vote for Alicia Dianne, People's Artist competition, May 4th through May 14th, 2026. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.